While they'll be voting for members of Congress in all 50 states next Tuesday, citizens in 24 states will also be voting directly on legislation, on so-called citizen or ballot initiatives. And the battles over those are just as heated as the battles for office. Keith Bogue is tracking the campaigns for us in California. Keith.
Peter, of all the states that allow citizens to write their own laws through ballot initiatives, none does it more fanatically nor attracts more attention than California. This election year, marijuana is the attention getter. Proposition 19 would legalize marijuana for recreational use, which its sponsors say is the best way to regulate it.
When you prohibit something, you lose control. When you prohibit, you lose the ability to say when, how much, who, and how old.
The other side says this.
Why on earth do we want to add yet another mind-altering substance to the legal array of substances that compromise a person's five senses?
So, presto, you have a public policy debate on the kind of hot-button issue politicians normally wouldn't touch. The ballot initiative gets the conversation started and then gives voters their say.
Very few voters go into the polls without having had an opportunity to hear both sides of the argument.
John Matsusaka is president of the Initiative and Referendum Institute at the University of Southern California.
The voters can always say, you know what, that's a really ridiculous idea, no, go away. But the fact that they get choices means that they aren't stuck with whatever the legislature comes up with.
Please join me in welcoming California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But this year, at least one legislator, the soon-to-be lame duck governor of California, is telling voters ballot initiatives can subvert democracy.
I want to talk about Texas oil interests that have descended upon California to overturn a California environmental law.
Schwarzenegger has joined the campaign against Proposition 23 that proposes to suspend the state's climate change law. Public record shows Schwarzenegger's claim about the Texas oil companies is true. The top 3 donors to the Prop 23 campaign are all oil companies based in Texas. They got Prop 23 on the ballot in the first place and now have more than $6.5 million in the campaign. One of the companies is owned by the Koch brothers, the multi-billionaire libertarians recently revealed in the New Yorker magazine as a financial force behind the supposedly grassroots Tea Party.
Let's wait until people are back to work.
Oil company millions pay for ads like this telling Californians that the climate change law will kill jobs in their state.
Save jobs. Stop the energy tax. Yes on 23.
But 2 Texas oil companies have a deceptive scheme to take us backwards. They're spending millions pushing...
But the other side is neither helpless nor broke. They can afford ads like these in part because their largest donor is a hedge fund manager and billionaire, Tom Steyer.
And eventually I just lost my temper and I thought, this is so wrong. Someone has to do this. Maybe I'm one of the people who has to do this.
Steyer says he was personally offended that corporate oil interests from Texas were bankrolling a campaign in California to suspend an environmental law. So he's put $5 million of his own money up against them, and he likes the odds.
Californians have come to learn that when a corporation comes and tells you, we're thinking of you, they may not be thinking of you. There's a very good chance they're thinking of them.
Matsusaka says the originators of ballot initiatives intended to empower citizens to make laws, not oil companies or other big corporations.
They were very much thinking about ways to get the corporations out of the legislature.
But he does not think money can make voters do something they don't want to do.
What money does in these campaigns is it allows a group to put a measure on the ballot. So it allows them to buy a spot on the ballot, but it does not allow them to buy a law. And that's a really important distinction.
For the moment, polls show Californians will vote to keep things the way they are for both climate change and pot. But if the opposite were to happen, in either case, then that would be something in which the rest of the country would take a very keen interest. Peter?
Keith Bogue in California tonight. Thanks, Keith.